Hello and welcome to my channel. In this video, I'm going to be discussing Keeper of the Keys, the second book in the Cycle of Fire trilogy by Janny Wurts. Now, this is going to be kind of a shorter review because I do completely understand that this is probably more of like a niche review since most people haven't even read the first book of Cycle of Fire by Janny Wurts. But I did want to I usually do a review for just about everything that I actually read and finish, so I did want to do a quicker review talking about this. This is going to be generally spoiler-free. There will be some spoilers for the first book, Stormwarden, so if you've not read Stormwarden, the first book yet, I would recommend go reading that first. This whole trilogy, you can get it in this online pretty cheap. It's not actually in print anymore, but it's a good trilogy, so I do recommend checking it out. But I don't really want to spoil anything for you, so if you do not want any sort of spoiler for the first book, now is the time you should probably shut this one off. So, Keeper of the Keys does pick up pretty much where we left off with the first book, Stormwarden, and we're following still mostly Tan and Jarek, are two characters who have found themselves very quickly thrust into a role of power and responsibility. We had Tan in the first book going off to the mystical island of the Very to become a Dreamweaver and have that kind of magic. And in the first book, we had Jarek, who was under a geese from the Stormwarden himself. The last, very powerful wizard, basically, had put a geese on him as the heir of the previous Fire Lord, Yvain, who is now deceased. And so he was supposed to basically come and fulfill his destiny and become the next Fire Lord and basically save the world and free Anskir and prevent the demons from taking over and killing off humanity. And that's really, especially here, what we're really kind of ramping up for is the final confrontation between the demons and humanity. But the main issue we see here is that Jarek is completely terrified of the idea of going through the Cycle of Fire because the Cycle of Fire does have impacts on both your basically your body and your mind, and he's so terrified of going mad like his father did, because Yvain was a pretty terrible guy, and he did a lot of damage himself, even though he was supposed to be somebody protecting the people, and Jarek is just terrified of ending up like Yvain. So we really have a lot of this book, he is completely just against and trying to find any other alternative to going to seek out the Isle of the Very and end up going mad and doing more damage. He just basically feels like, I don't want to be a powerful sorcerer. I just feel like magic is not the answer here. And so kind of that person not wanting to go toward their destiny. But granted, he does have some pretty good reasons overall. We get a lot of that exploration. But what I really, really enjoyed about this book is we get a ton more explanation on the way of the world. What the demons actually are, kind of the origins of humanity on Keithland. I'm still annoyed about the name Keithland, but that too is explained, that it is exactly why I thought that was the name, which I won't say because I don't want to get into spoilers. And this is where it's kind of hard because I don't want to spoil the kind of twist in the first book either, but we get a ton more information on the nature of these things, the nature of the Very, what kind of a lot of the different groups many generations ago set up, and kind of just a big explanation. We do get that kind of in the form of an exposition dump, which is a little bit of a nitpick because I don't really care for exposition dumps, as a principle, but it does make sense with the story the way that it's happening, because there's a certain type of the demons, which are the Londalai, and they don't speak, they communicate through sending mind images, and so there are multiple parts where they are sending basically images of the past and potentially the future to characters and showing them things that have happened. But we do get a ton more explanation of the distant past as well as the kind of more near past, and we get a more in-depth look at the scene from the prologue of the first book, which was kind of at the end of a huge event, and we get a lot more into that to see kind of Anskyr and Ivy and the Fire Lord, and really understand Anskyr as well. We still have, of course, Tan's brother, who was going down a dark path and ends up essentially being taken by the demons, and they plan to corrupt him and use him as kind of like an evil sorcerer against his own kind, against humanity, in order to make sure that they win. So we get a lot of that. We still have a lot of seafaring. This is a very seafaring type of series because a lot of it takes place on like islands and the ocean. We get a lot more character depth into several of the characters quite a bit, which I enjoyed as well. This really, like I said, does a ton more explanation. The first book, I think very intentionally, left a lot of details out and kind of lulls you into thinking you know what's happening, where there's some very different things. So I am super interested to see where this ends up. I'll probably do kind of like a longer video at the very end talking about the trilogy as a whole, and I'll probably include some spoilers there with it at that point as well. But that's kind of what we had for Keeper of the Keys. Like I said, planning on keeping this pretty short since it's a pretty niche review. And if you're still watching and you've actually read the first book and or the second at this point, good on you, because this is, I think, definitely a series that I've never heard anyone speak about. And Janny Wurts in general, I've heard a lot of things about her being very underrated, and so I do plan on checking out more of her stuff. It's definitely an interesting story, and her prose and kind of writing style is pretty unique as well. It can be a little dry in spots, but there'll also be times, it happened in the first book too, where like read a page and I'll just go back and I'm just like, that was a really lovely page. Like just the way everything flowed, the descriptions. So it's well written and it's set up. And I mean, I still maintain that this is an amazing cover and I love it. And covers should be more like this in the future. You should go back to really cool old school wizard covers. I would be okay with that. But those are my thoughts on Keeper of the Keys, Book 2 of Cycle of Fire by Janny Wurts. Make sure to give this video a like if you enjoyed it. Check out the link in the description for the Wizardly Duo Discord if you want to join the conversation on this or other books or kind of anything in general. And of course, if you'd like to see more of my content, make sure to subscribe.